Have you ever worked really hard to achieve something, and then once you achieve it, feel depressed afterwards? I know a lot of people do. A good example of this is Michael Phelps, and he's won 28 Olympic gold medals, but he now openly shares his struggle with depression. So you would think after being the greatest Olympic athlete of all times, your life would be happy and fulfilled and things would work out, but it's not always the case. So I wanted to introduce this concept as the start to chapter number 7, where it's actually strategy number 7 of the Promotion Playbook. So this is the last chapter in the 7 strategy portion of the book. So the book has 3 parts. It has a story, which is really important that you work on your stories as part of your preparation. And then there's 7 strategies. And then the final piece is the skill sets. So the strategies are presented in a story to really show you and help you to grasp these lessons in a story format. And then after this, the book transitions into giving you the practical skills you need for that assessment center. So one more picture I wanted to share about this, because this chapter, we'll jump into the book in just a minute, but I wanted to share this picture, which is from this site called Unknow-It-All. I don't know a whole lot about this site, but I came across this image, which I thought was kind of funny. So it says, like, reference groups over the year. You have this kid that says, I'll be happy when I have as many balloons as my brother. Then they start to mature into a teenager. I say, I'll be happy when I get as many Instagram followers as the most popular guy in my school. And then they say, I'll be happy when I get the best job offer after college of all my classmates. And then I'll be happy if I get chosen to be the CEO of all my colleagues. And then they die and they say, I'll be happy if worms eat my body faster than anybody else. I thought it was kind of funny, but it's very common mindset, especially in the American culture, that is so driven by these external success and these external results. And unfortunately, statistically, in terms of happiness, depression, dependency on drugs and antidepressant medication, America ranks one of the worst in the world if you start looking at this concept of fulfillment and happiness. So that's the frame going into the peak. So there's a peak moment in this chapter. And if you remember from the previous chapters, there's a big setback and a big adversity. And there is an attainment of external success in this. If you've watched any of the story structure that I've shared in the Game Day Toolkit, you'll see that there's a common theme that plays out throughout each chapter. And ultimately, it kind of comes to a head here, is that throughout this story, there's like 2 journeys that Jake takes. One is the external, and the second is the internal reward. So any great story has these 2 components, is that there's an external result, whether they get it or they don't. There's this external prize or attainment that the character seeks. And through that process at the end, typically the most profound stories have this internal transformation that happens in the process. And this is what happens to Jake in this story. So he celebrates the peak. And I wanted to emphasize this quote at the beginning, is that suffering creates connection. And on the other side of suffering is celebration. So the emphasis here is that promotion is not it's not necessarily an easy process. There's going to be some pain. You may have some suffering, some setbacks, some adversity, a lot of hard work. But if you endure and persist, the previous chapter was a painful chapter because Jake had failed his previous test. After doing all this work, it was a big, it was this big elevation. Then all of a sudden he just had this plummet and this drop. So it was painful, but this is where it transitions to all of his hard work finally paying off. And it pays off in more ways than just getting his promotion. So at this stage in the book, the last chapter ended is that Jake wanted to be successful at the engineer test. It wasn't his deepest desire. His deepest desire was to be a company officer, but he wanted to do the engineer position because it would help him develop into that. So he put all his effort into testing for the engineer, and he did good, except for he did one thing. So one thing that caused him to fail the entire test. So it was one small detail that took him out. And that was painful, but he used that pain and he resolved that he's going to put all of this pain and his experience and all that he learned in this book towards the upcoming captain test. And so in the captain test is where he begins to apply this skill set, where everything kind of comes to a head. So the setting here, so here's part of the transition here. One of the transitions is he makes the transition to making it about him to making his promotion be about other people. And so this quote from Winston Churchill is, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." So you see that the chapter opens up is that Jake's back with the same crew. He didn't get promoted because he failed the test, but he's back with this crew, and there's a different energy to this crew, and there's a different way that Jake is showing up to his shift. So he had this pivotal moment where he failed the engineer test, and he could have digressed downward and just been like, screw it. I'm just going to ride out this job until I get my pension. I'm not going to invest into this department, this organization, this crew, whatever. He could have gotten resigned and cynical based on that defeat, because it was a difficult thing for him. And a lot of times these assessment centers are not fair. People fail all the time that would do great at the job. And unfortunately, it's just how it works. Is it sometimes people do great, and sometimes great people don't do well. So don't look for the assessment center to be a fair and equal process. It certainly should be at some levels, and based on all the necessary requirements, they shouldn't have discrimination or harassment or anything like that. But when it comes to scoring in the results, it's never going to work out perfectly how everybody thinks it should be. There's typically somebody that doesn't do well and they're not happy with it, and there's a tendency to either blame, or they just learn the lesson and get better for the next one. So he's with his crew, and there's been this shift is where he's stepped up, and he was the informal leader before, but he's taken his leadership to the next level. So that's one of the big transitions that you'll see here, is that Jake has always been doing great, but now he's even doing more of it. And the 3 phases of this process, of these 7 strategies, of the tools that are presented in the Promotion Playbook, is the first step is you have to learn it. You become the student. And then once you learn it, you actually live it out. So it's kind of like riding a bicycle. At first, you kind of have to go through all these motions and figure out how it works, but then you're able to ride it. And then after you're able to ride it, then you can teach others how to do the same skill set. So this applies to the assessment center or developing into a new position, is that you learn them, you live it, and then from there you lead it. And at this stage of the book, Jake is leading it. He doesn't have the formal badge yet, but one of the quotes, one of the main themes here is that it's not about the badge. It's not about the promotion. It's about who you become in the process. And so everything that this book is about is designed to give you the best chance of success at an assessment center. That being said, the test won't always turn out in your favor, even if you're the most prepared. So sometimes don't get too caught up on this external result. It's like, I have to get promoted. I have to have this certain rank. I have to have this certain pay raise. Those things are great fruits of success, but they're not the essence of it. So don't lose track of who you're called to become, or what you want to develop into, because the greatest fulfillment is going to come from growing and giving back to others. It's far more than your increase in pay or the rank or the status or things like that. Is just focus on the transition of developing others and giving back and growing in the process. So he has his captain's test, and it doesn't draw it out a lot, but he goes through the test. He does really well at the test. There's a couple of things he could have done better, but overall he felt really confident. And that's kind of like this metaphor of the movie The Matrix, where Neo all of a sudden becomes aware of his powers, and he starts to see things differently. When he goes through his assessment center, there's part of that happens because these tests, these evolutions, these scenarios that used to seem so challenging and so confusing, Jake suddenly understood it, and he just didn't understand it at the head. He understood it in his body. So he understood it from a tangible perspective so that he could just do it. He was living it and leading it. So it just became a natural flow of what he was already doing. And then from there, it just leads into a natural progression into the position. He ends up placing number 1 on the list and does significantly better than any of his competition. He follows all the same strategies and he stays in touch with his mentor. But the other transition here is that his mentor, who's been guiding him the whole time, suddenly he kind of creates this distance back at the beginning of this chapter when it's live it, learn it, lead it, is he gets to a point where he says, you're no longer the student, you now must become the teacher, and you have to start mentoring and guiding others. There's only so far that his mentor can take him before he has to get his own wings and kind of develop and lead his own path. So that's a neat transition. Jake makes that transition. He kind of grows up into the teacher and not so much the student. He wins. And then a big point here. So this chapter is really, it opened up with saying you may get this high point and you could still feel unfulfilled from it. That being said, the main emphasis in terms of the takeaway from this chapter is the importance of intentional celebration. Is that if you don't celebrate it along the way, as you want to cultivate this pattern of being okay with owning your success, celebrating your success, sharing your success with others, no matter how big or small it may be, because celebration becomes a habit. And so a lot of people I know for me in the past is like, I would achieve something and I'd be like, I'd downplay it. I'd be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And just go on to the next thing. But it's really important. That's not the healthiest pattern to follow, because you're, as we mentioned in the previous chapter, if you're not rewarding yourself, you're not going to be as driven and as motivated to keep doing those things that are working. So the end of it is that there's a celebration. It ends. He got his external reward. And more importantly, he had this internal transformation. This last email is actually Jake sending an email out to somebody else that he's now supporting. And he wanted to start off with this because it's his own style. He's still going to use the 7 strategies, but he wanted to say, look, this reward is great. He celebrates it. He enjoys it. He enjoys time with friends, with family. I think it says that he took a trip to Hawaii with his family to celebrate. So it's like, you should celebrate your success along the way and you should enjoy it. Just don't get too attached. Just don't get too attached to it, and don't wait until the end to celebrate. So here is the simple tool that we end with is that this is called the peak celebration plan. And so the whole part is just to reward yourself along the way. There's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot that you have to do to be successful here. But it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the process. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that there can't be rewards along the way. So it says, I will celebrate and share my progress in the following ways with the following people. So daily, this is all about your gratitude, your appreciation, your celebration. And so some ideas, I'll get into Jake's example for the ideas, but it's basically just your rewards for yourself and for all those that are supporting you. What are you going to do daily? What are you going to do weekly? And then at the end of 90 days, what is kind of the big reward? It's like the concept that was previous mentioned is there's pain. The video is backwards. So when I say this, so let's just say there's pain here and there's pleasure here. The pain's the stick that's going to whack you and keep you moving. And then the carrot is something you chase after. So it's like the carrot and the stick is the metaphor for the, like a donkey or a horse that's doing work, because you keep them motivated. If they stop, you hit them with pain. And to keep them going, you keep a carrot that the donkey's going to follow doing the work, carrying water up a hill. Our minds work the same way. And so you want to have the pain, the short-term pain of, you don't want to have the pain of defeat and do everything you can to avoid that. And then you also want to have the rewards along the way. So this is Jake's example. And this is what he puts in. He says he's going to text his wife daily to let her know how much he appreciates her support. So don't neglect to express that gratitude along the way. So he's thinking his wife every day, be like, hey, I know I've been studying a lot. I know I've been working a lot, but I love you. I honor you. I appreciate you. I wouldn't be able to do this without your help. Write a note to his kids each morning. He's going to hit every day that he hits his training goal. So if you remember the X in the previous chapter of making your plan, he's going to treat himself to something nice, like a coffee or, maybe some type of drink that he likes. If he's at home, maybe have a beer, maybe maybe get something to eat or some type of reward daily. And then weekly, he's going to make time each week to go on a date with his wife to make sure he builds that relationship and to take his kids on dates. So keeping that connection and building that relationship is part of this celebration, because you don't want to get your promotion and then come back home to an empty house. Or, you know, not have people to share it with, of being celebrating by yourself, because that's not the best experience. You want to be able to celebrate with other people that took this journey with you, because if you do it by yourself, it can be a lonely road, even if you're able to accomplish a lot, or if you're not. So he's going to spend money every week. He hits his training goal. He's going to go buy something, whatever he wants, maybe at the sporting goods store, or spend it online, buy something cool. And when he places in the top 5, so here's the 90 days is the big goal. When I place in the top 5, I will celebrate by taking my family on a vacation to Hawaii. And I'll also buy a new hunting rifle when I complete my entire day. So that's a pretty nice reward. And it's helpful to have that. I know I've done that with the times that I've been successful at tests, is I had this big incentive at the end, and I just kind of keep that as a motivation when I don't feel like training, when I don't feel like doing the work. And it's neat to have those rewards along the way. So that completes the 7 strategies that are in the Promotion Playbook. So if you want to message me, I'm making these videos to go along with the book, and you can get the book once it's finally uploaded. It'll be on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. And then these videos are designed to go along with it to give you the extra. And it also explains these tools. So it's designed to be an interactive process. You read a chapter, you do the work, you watch the video, or maybe you read a chapter, watch this video, and then do the work, because it's designed this interactive process where the way you're going to get the best value out of this book is to apply these tools, is to apply them, and apply them consistently over time, and you will see the good results. So if you want extra copies of the tools, or if you want the book, which where to get the book, and it's going to be on Amazon, but currently at this recording, it's not live yet. But if you want it, send me a message, and I'll let you know as soon as it's released where you can get it. And then I can also send you extra one of these tools, and I'll keep you updated on all the updated videos that are coming out. I'll probably end up doing some audio courses with it, and possibly interviewing people that have been successful following these strategies. So thanks for watching. Remember, there's 7 strategies, 4 skills, and they're all presented in a format. So there's one final bonus tool that we'll cover in the next video, which is the 7 strategies assessment. It's a simple tool, but it's a way to just keep track of if you're actually applying these as part of your plan. And then the book transitions into the game day toolkit, which is a lot different. It's not so much a story. It's just like, hey, here's the practical tools that you need to be successful, and this is how you do them. Thanks for watching, and I wish you the best of luck. Goodbye.